What's up, world? Welcome to Cage Minds. I'm your host, Micah. Today we're doing our review from UFC 140, and there'll be some extra added news in the mixed martial arts world at the end of our show. We'll get right to how we did on our predictions for UFC 140. It was probably the worst predictions I've ever done. We ended up being 5-7, 5 right, 7 wrong. We'll tell you how we did that. Get right to the action. Started off well. The first fight was Mitch Clark versus John Charles. Thought Charles would just be more well-rounded, the better fighter. We had him winning with a split decision. Actually, he was able to finish the fight in the second round due to strikes. So that's one right for us. Next fight, Rich Antonito versus Jake Heach. Antonito seemed to be in control in the first round, was using his boxing, achieved the takedown, was using his ground and pound. Successful round one. In round two, he shot him for a sloppy takedown. Some very good elbows to the back of the ear by Heach, and a second round TKO for Jake Heach sent Antonito out. Next fight was Mark Bocek versus Nick Lentz. We had seen Nick Lentz winning this with a split decision. It barely was reminiscent of what you could call the fight. It was just a lot of grappling. Mark Bocek had top position, top control. He said this was his statement win. If this was his statement win, I don't understand what the statement was. It was, I can grapple and I can control, inflicted no damage, won a unanimous decision. We had that one wrong, and that was just an ugly fight. I did not appreciate it much as a fan. Next fight, we had Yves Jabouin versus Wild Watson. These fights that we're talking about next were on Ion TV. I was not able to view them, but we do have the how it went down. So, Yves Jabouin, Wild Watson, we had it going as a unanimous decision for Jabouin. He won it with a split decision. Watson, we heard, should have finished the fight with a Kimura in the third round, but wasn't able to. 29-28, the resulting factor, Yves Jabouin's taking that one, so that's 2 right. Next fight, John Makdessi versus Dennis Hallman. We thought that Makdessi would KO Hallman out of the UFC. Hallman, after his Speedo incident, coming in overweight, came in, determined to grapple, was able to take Makdessi down, beat him up, choked him out. First round rear naked choke. Dennis Hallman saving his job in the UFC. Also at the end, did apologize for missing weight, said he wants an asterisk next to his victory as he was out of weight. I don't know how that matters because you and I all both know the night of the fight, there was no way that these two men would be anywhere near the same weight. So the fact that he missed by 2 pounds doesn't really matter when he was 15 pounds heavier than Makdessi anyway. John Makdessi probably looking towards moving to featherweight. Hopefully we'll still see some exciting fights out of him. Probably be better because there's not as many tenacious grapplers in the featherweight division as there is in the lightweight division. Next fight at middleweight, Jared Hammond, Constance Philippou. We thought that Hammond would win. I was taking a kickboxer over a boxer. I saw a third round TKO, and the boxer lined up his shots, landed a couple hard ones. Jared Hammond can take abuse like nobody else, and he took it like nobody else. About 4 to 5 times, normal guys would have been knocked out before like the 6th or 7th shot actually did TKO Hammond. Philippou says he's now more comfortable. This is who he is. He's a finisher. First round TKO. Got to keep Constance Philippou on record, looking to move up in that middleweight division. Next bout at light heavyweight, Krzysztof Sosinski, Igor Polkaretz. Thought Krzysztof would be better everywhere. Big Krzysztof fan. Thought he would take the fight to the ground. Thought he would get a Kimura. They started off brawling. Krzysztof got caught. Polkaretz stayed aggressive, stayed on top, finished the fight with strikes, completely knocked Krzysztof out. The ref is calling for ice and water. It was a wow scene. Polkaretz on a 2-fight winning streak now. Good to see him back doing better. Now we move up to the main card, where it started off with Canadian Mark Hominick and Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. We thought that Hominick would come in, use his striking, win out a unanimous decision. There was a lot of pressure on him, first time fighting without his trainer, Sean Tompkins, and fighting back again in Canada in the same city that he lost at UFC 129 to Jose Aldo, so a lot of pressure. Came out swinging wildly and got KO'd by the Korean Zombie. 7 seconds. Tied for the fastest knockout in UFC history with another guy that doesn't deserve it, because we all know that Dwayne Bang Ludwig, with his 4-second knockout, is the real fastest knockout ever. Just the rest were slow on stopping the fight. So, a almost record for the Korean Zombie. He did surmount, though, knockout of the night. Great one-strike knockout on Mark Hominick. Hominick apologized to everybody. Too much pressure on him. Kind of hard to see how far up and how far down these two move in the ladder. With such a decisive finish, though, it's hard to say rematch, but I'd almost like to see a rematch in a neutral site to where there was less pressure on Hominick and maybe these guys could get into the war that we were hoping they would have. Next fight was Claude Patrick and Brian Embersol, a welterweight battle that ended up turning into Embersol trying to get takedowns. So for trying to get takedowns, for trying to be more aggressive, for getting on top a couple times, and for escaping about 4 guillotines, he gets a unanimous decision victory, which we saw was going to be a split decision victory. I don't know if Claude Patrick really loses any ground, and if Embersol really moves up too far in the rankings from this fight. I thought, Embersol went in as the favorite. Claude Patrick showed a lot of heart, a lot of grappling ability from a guy that hasn't been grappling too long. Good, decent striking. Embersol, I'd say, was almost disappointing for what we'd seen of him from his first 2 UFC contests. Now we go up to the third from the top, the co-main event. Tito Ortiz and Little Nog with Jerry Nogueira. Tito wanting to now not be referred to as the Huntington Beach Bad Boy, as the People's Champion. Tito, I had predicted to win with a unanimous decision victory, hoping he'd be able to get his takedowns, get to the ground. He was more aggressive than normally, did attempt that, did have some good work going on the clinch, but another knee to the sternum in a different fashion, but in the same spot as how Rashad Evans did in Tito Ortiz. The same knee does him in by Nogueira. Elbows, punches to the ribs, probably broken ribs for Tito Ortiz. Done in the first round by Rogerio Nogueira. Tito, after the fight, asked for the UFC to give him one more fight. As a fan, I guess we could say, let the guy go out on his own terms, let him finish his contract out. Maybe Rich Franklin, maybe Forrest Griffin. Outside of that, I think we've seen the last of Tito Ortiz. Hopefully he'll get his last request, even for taking that fight on late notice against Rashad. So we'll see how that works out or not. But Tito looked pretty badly beaten in this fight. We move up to the co-main event. Frank Mir and Big Nog, Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. We had predicted that Frank Mir would win this fight with a third-round TKO. I thought he used his wrestling, ground and pound, and achieved position, beat up Nogueira in the clinch. Well, they started off boxing. Nogueira actually rocks Mir. Mir kind of falling, hits face first. Nogueira goes to take his back, try to sink in the hooks to get his legs around the waist. Mir was able to lock on Nakamura. They start spinning, and Frank Mir dislocates the shoulder of Nogueira, wins with another bone-crushing submission from Frank Mir, second of his career. Tim Sylvia, Nogueira, they both go on the same mantle. Mir quite proud of himself that he's the first person to knock out and submit Nogueira. Big time credits for him for that. And also a submission of the night award, $70,000. We'll go to the main event now. John Jones, Lyoto Machida. We had predicted a 4th-round TKO finish for John Jones. Machida, probably the first guy that's actually came out on judges' scorecards, did steal the first round. Took the first round from John Jones on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards. They kind of fenced around in the stand-up, and Machida was able to get more of his shots, even ran towards, wobbled Jones once, not really hit him overwhelmingly hard, but did wobble him back. In the second round, John Jones was able to force the fight against the cage, got the fight to the ground, one big elbow strike, a huge gash formed in Machida's head. Machida was bleeding. The fight eventually gets back up. Doctors look at the cut, get back to the fight, get back to the clinch. John Jones is able to sneak his left arm under, get his right hand up, and a serious guillotine where Machida's left hand actually got stuck inside the crevice of Jones's right elbow, and Jones was holding up Machida. When he let go of the submission, Machida completely fell out. A second-round guillotine for John Jones. Retains his title. That's his second title defense. Up next for him, Vacation. What follows also this fight was that both men were rewarded with Fight of the Night honors in a bout card that a lot of fast and furious finishes. The fights that went to decision were not overwhelmingly entertaining. Jabouin and Watson, I heard, was very well, but the other 2 fights that went to decision, not overwhelmingly entertaining. So we had our Korean Zombie, Frank Mir, John Jones, and Lyoto Machida get big bonuses. Jones retains his title. Frank Mir offered if there's an injury between Lesnar and Overeem, he would love to jump in, possibly fight Cain Velasquez. Other things that happened at the post-fight press conference, the addition of something that we all love to hear about, the flyweight division now. It'll be a 4-person flyweight tournament. Demetrius Johnson, Mighty Mouse, will take on Uncle Creepy, Ian McCall, the Tenchi Palace flyweight champion. On the other side of this bracket, we have Joseph Benavidez versus Yoshihiro Yamashiro. Don't know how to say the guy's name. I apologize if I have anybody with that. He is the Shudo flyweight champion, so we should have our first UFC lightweight champion. Also, this turns into good news for guys like John Dawson and Josh Ferguson. We saw from the